Hey everyone, and welcome back. The last time I was here I told you about Shards of Fate, my upcoming 5-book novel series, and the first book in the series called The Rising. Today I wanted to do something different, though. I wanted to take the time to tell you about the characters of the first book, and with that I'm going to actually be starting with the characters Silas and Margarette. Who they are, a little about how they relate to the story without giving away any spoilers, and of course basic descriptions. Then I'll do more videos for the other characters, including the major villain of the story, Terrace. With Silas, what most people need to understand is that Silas is what we would call a recovering villain. If he were to see an old lady have her purse stolen by a mugger, chances are he would draw a sword on the spot in the middle of broad daylight, throw the sword, remove the mugger's arm, run over, grab the purse, arm and all, and then hand it back to the old lady, because he thinks it's the right thing to do, and wouldn't understand at the time that, oh, right, arm. Here, let me take that off the purse for you. So, the reason why he's like that is because of the fact that as an infant, he was actually kidnapped from Kame and his first wife, Elizabeth, and raised to be evil. During that time is when Elizabeth was killed by the demon Terrace. So, he spent the first 300 years of his life slaughtering innocent humans until Kame came to find him. Now, that being said, Silas typically enjoys jobs where he's in some sort of subterfuge. He's been a spy, he's a private detective, he infiltrates a major agency that polices the supernatural, so demons, vampires, angels, everything, all to make sure that this treaty between the humans and supernatural beings is upheld. Silas stands at about 6'3". He has long black hair and a deep emerald green eyes. Almost like the green that you see around St. Patrick's Day. That's about his eye color. The thing that people need to understand, though, is that because of what Silas is, his mother being a succubus and his father being half vampire and half archangel, is that Silas can control every physical aspect of his body. So, if he were like me and bald, he would actually be able to regrow the hair follicles there and regrow out his hair. If his hair had been shaved, like mine, he would be able to grow it back down to the long mane that he's used to. This is something he does on a daily basis, where he'll get up in the morning, and rather than use just a pair of scissors and cut his hair, he will actually shave bald every day, grow out the hair so it's just long enough to be acceptable for a federal agent, and then go into work. Like most of the immortals in the Shards of Fate world, though, he doesn't really have any whiskers, because he chooses not to grow them out. Unlike his grandfather Cain, who, when I actually get around to the description, I will mention again that Cain actually has a mustache and a full-on little chin beard. So, but that's all really for Silas. How he relates to the story is he's kind of like a younger version of Kame. He's only 23 years younger than Kame, so he's still more than 700 years old. But he's kind of funny. He tries to, while he's dark, he still at the same time tries to make light of what's going on, because he's seen worse. He's done worse than things that you actually read about in the book. And I'll get into his history during the book as well, so you'll actually have more of a chance to get to know some of the things that he's done. With Margaret, Margaret is actually Silas's human girlfriend. And a lot of folks probably out there are going, oh, that's very Twilight. Well, there's a reason why she's human, and I can't really tell you without giving away something from book 2. I do hint at it in book 1, but I kind of do the cliffhanger thing where, you know, you get the hint and then that's it. No more explanation. We move on to the next chapter. So, Margaret, though, has this strange ability where she can actually tell you exactly when Silas is lying all the time. He can't hide anything from her. So if he even mentions something about it and she asks him about it and he lies, she knows. So where, unlike most people, even Silas's brother, who has an innate gift to discern truth from lies because of his bloodline, even the times when he can't tell if Silas is lying or not, Margaret can. So that's one of the amazing things about Margaret, is she has the supernatural ability to be able to tell when Silas is lying. Not necessarily anybody else, just Silas. And again, there is a reason for that. Margaret's personality is very rebellious. She doesn't like to conform to the norm, as evidenced by the fact that she's dating a half succubus immortal, knowing full well that he can't turn her and make her immortal. So, by nature, she's very rebellious. So, for her to play the role that she does in the book, she's the counterbalance to Silas, more or less. For every bit, he feels guilty, she reassures him. So she's his rock, basically. She stands about 5'7". She has brunette hair, and she actually met Silas when he was investigating an event that is a major precursor to the story. I mentioned in the Kickstarter page that one of the things Kame has to survive is an army of Wraith. Well, the Wraith had been in Los Angeles once before, except that because of the nature of these vampires, they're typically solitary creatures. They don't form nests normally. And again, there is a reason for all of this that I get into later. But with the Wraith, you find one, if you kill it and you survive, great, problem's done with. You shouldn't be running into another one around the block. So when people started disappearing in Burbank, Silas was called in by Margaret's mother to investigate. Well, Margaret had actually gone to investigate herself because some of her friends had disappeared. And she ends up at a rave in Burbank, and Silas, of course, finds this rave through his private detective skills. He actually hunts down the evidence, finds this rave where everybody's been disappearing from, and then runs into Margaret. Of course, if it were that simple, it wouldn't be in the book. It's very anticlimactic. The two, as they're leaving the rave to continue their investigation and compare notes, they run into one of the Wraith. Well, Silas, being immortal, knows pretty much all there is to know about Wraith, and kills the Wraith, knows that they're solitary creatures, and then takes Margaret for a shot of whiskey. So that's actually how they met. Margaret does play a major role in the story, and her involvement in the story actually brings forth one of Silas's deepest, I wouldn't say darkest secrets, but it's definitely the one that he hides the most. The one thing that he doesn't want anybody to know ever, for fear that, one, people are going to look at him differently, his family will treat him differently, etc., etc., etc. So the two are actually very pivotal to the story themselves, because if it wasn't for these two, you wouldn't get to see more of the other characters. And to be perfectly honest, if it wasn't for Silas, Margaret wouldn't be in the story. My inspiration for Margaret actually came from the Chad Kroeger, Carlos Santana song. You know what, the name escapes me at the moment. I will post it in the YouTube just below here. So take a look below. I will actually link to a video with the song. Hopefully it'll be around for more than 2 weeks. So anyway, guys, have a wonderful week, my fellow vampire fans, and happy reading.